Greetings to one and all. I'm Anushka Patodi, student at CEPT University. The topic for the presentation is Water Safety and Security Plan for Urban and Rural Centers of Overexploited Blocks of Kutch District. The Kutch district is the largest district in India, yet one of the most vulnerable in terms of water safety and security due to its geographical conditions. The research is limited to the cases of Mandavi city, Birda village and Bachao city. The sites fall under the overexploited blocks of the district. The aim of this research was to define water safety and security assessment framework for the urban and rural centers of the overexploited blocks of the district, while simultaneously addressing the vulnerable population along with formulating water safety and security action plan with monitoring framework. The research also maps and identifies the key stakeholders for implementation of the identified actions. The research started with background study of urban centers through secondary resources like research papers, assessment frameworks, articles and documents, case studies, missions and policies. This helped in understanding the context of the area and broadly helped in developing a framework that addresses the issue of water safety and security in the overexploited areas. This framework has themes and components. Under each component, there are multiple indicators. This was followed by site visits, where through stakeholder consultations, focus group discussions, and field visits, data was collected, which further led to identification of issues and actions were proposed accordingly. This being an iterative process, after each step, a thorough literature review was done so as to validate the next step taken and thus helped in curating an action plan. The presentation today will answer 5 questions as displayed on the screen. The first 3 questions addresses the objective 1 and the last 2 addresses objective 2, which brings us to our very first question of what are the global and national discourses on water security and safety. To understand water security and safety plan, we need to first understand what is water safety and security. This is discussed upon both globally and nationally. Thus, from global discourses, water safety is mainly about the risk management for ensuring safe drinking water, right from the catchment or source to the user end. Whereas water security is making the water available in sufficient quantity for better quality of life. Coming to national, the latest discourse is Jal Jeevan Mission, which is about safe and adequate supply of drinking water through FHTC. This also mentions the source sustainability, water conservation and its techniques and how community-based approach helps in achieving safety, whereas Institute for Defense Studies also highlights the changing water needs and conditions with respect to quality, quantity and uneven distribution. Coming to our second question of how to assess water safety and security, to answer the question, multiple literatures were looked upon as discussed in methodology. Then 10 frameworks were identified with themes like water safety, water security, water balance, urban water management and sustainability, etc. These frameworks then led to identification of indicators for the assessment framework. Similarly, multiple case studies, missions and policies were reviewed. Cases like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, West Bengal, Maharashtra, Hyderabad, Jordan, Ethiopia and Beijing were reviewed. These cases were taken up from the global south and had similar context to that of India, where issues like source contamination, metal poisoning, overexploitation of groundwater, etc. were observed, with outcomes like operational changes, improved systems, financial changes, etc. And impacts like improvement in water supply system, improvement in quality of water, and overall improvements in health were observed, which finally helped us in arriving at water safety and security assessment framework for this study. So the framework had 2 themes, namely safety and security, with components like availability, accessibility, water withdrawal, governance, finance, accountability of ULB, affordability, and stakeholders' participation. And in safety, the component is quality. For today's presentation, I will be showing the detailed analysis of the first component, that is availability. For the remaining, a summary is shown. Similar detailed analysis is done for all the indicators. The first component, availability, comprises of 7 indicators. Availability mainly means making the water physically available for the people. The indicators range from water demand per capita, water supply to external source dependency ratio. The data for each indicator is collected from field visits, observation, municipality, Gram Panchayat, past data, focus group discussions, and stakeholder consultations. The second component is accessibility, where there are 8 indicators. The component accessibility means the population in the area must have admittance to clean and potable water through any means of improved water source, and the indicators listed resonates the same. The third component is water withdrawal, which aligns with the relation of available water in the environment to the amount of water given back to the environment or amount of water which is being taken up to the amount of water which is being recharged. The next indicator is governance, which has the next component is governance, which has 4 indicators. For any place to function efficiently, a sound governance system is necessary. This helps in monitoring the things well and improves the quality of services. The next indicator is finance. To provide services in the city, and it is necessary to maintain its finances, under which we are looking into cost recovery and collection efficiency. For better functioning of water supply system, it is necessary to understand how efficient are service provisions. Coming to the next indicator, which is about securing water and making it affordable, for which we are looking at the pricing and charges of the water in an area. The next indicator under the theme security is actors' participation. This component helps in mapping all the stakeholders and looks into their coordination mechanisms. The component under safety is quality, which comprises of three indicators, namely quality of water supplied, waterborne diseases, incidences per thousand, and cost of treating water at household level. Which brings us to our fourth question of how water safe and secure are Manvi, Bachao, and Bidda. The question is addressed to the data analysis done with the assessment framework. Coming to the first component, which is availability, the data analysis for the same is the first indicator is water supply facility. All the three sites are connected with individual pipe supply connections. Second indicator is dynamics of surface water and groundwater supply. Looking at the data, it is seen that the cities are highly dependent on external water source, thus face a huge threat to water security, whereas the village is exploiting groundwater at an alarming rate by using 77.5% of water through groundwater. Coming to the third indicator, which is per capita water supply, the water which is being supplied by Manvi ULB is 134 LPCD, but only 103 is being received at the consumer end. 23% of the water goes under losses. Similarly, in Bachao, 19% goes in losses, and in Bidda, 15% water goes under losses. The thing to be noted that is, despite Bachao being a sewer connected city, the per capita supply does not meet the minimum requirement of 100 LPCD. The water losses are very high in all the three sites. Coming to the next indicator, which is percentage of reused wastewater meeting the demand of the city. It is to be observed that 100% utilization of the wastewater takes place in all the three sites and is taken up by the farmers, but only Manvi has STP, and the water taken up by the farmers remains untreated and possesses health risk. Also, the data is not indicative of the losses such as evaporation. To know the water demand, a projection was done with respect to population, which clearly states that city is not able to meet water demand. The current supply is 9 LPCD in Manvi, whereas the water demand is 9.4 MLD. This shows the urgent need to secure water for future generation. Similar projection was done for Bachao city, where the current supply is 5.5 MLD and the demand is 8.7 MLD. And for Bidda, 0.4 MLD is supplied, but the demand is of 0.7 MLD. The next indicator is number of supply days and number of hours of supply in a day. So in Manvi, there is a municipal water supply of 45 minutes every day. In Bachao, there is municipal supply of 1 hour every alternate day, whereas in Bidda Gram Panchayat, water is supplied 1 hour every day. The last indicator is external water dependency ratio, where Manvi is 44% dependent on Narmada water, Bachao is 55%, and Bidda is 22.5% dependent. The own water sources in these areas only act as recharging structures. As discussed before, the indicators that need immediate interventions fall under the average, poor, and very poor category. This slide shows the normalization for each indicator. Similar normalization is done for all the components. The next component is accessibility. There is 100% coverage of pipe water supply, and the data indicates that all the three sites are performing good. But the ground realities are different. Manvi and Bachao, the pipe connections are there, but the issue of pressure is observed at the ends of the network. It is also observed that these ends do not get water unless a pump is connected to them. And mostly vulnerable communities are situated at most ends of the supply system. In Bachao, the vulnerable communities get water from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning, which causes inconvenience and reduces the efficiency of the people. However, there are no community taps in both Bachao and Manvi city, but there is one stand post present in Bidda, which is there in a habitable area of 1 kilometer. All the three sites are already exceeding the population growth and have exhausted the water service capacities and thus fall under the poor category. This shows the normalization of accessibility. The next component is water withdrawal. There is a gap of around 10 to 15% in overall blocks of Mandavi in Bachao, although this data still does not give the situation of the city. Thus, further data analysis is required. While Mandavi recharges the borewell, Bachao does nothing in terms of recharging. And Bidda, on the other hand, have revived already 200 failed borewells through participatory groundwater management. Coming to the next indicator, which is governance. In Mandavi, so in both the cities, only 75% positions are filled in water department. And also there is an overlapping of staff in Bachao municipality, which causes stress on water department and reduces its working efficiency. The programs and institutions are regularly monitored by both the cities through, although there is no separate committee or cell made for it, except for the complaint redressal. The next component is finance, where the cost recovery falls under the category of very poor in both the cities, as SLB requires cost recovery to be 100%, but the cost recovery in both cities is only about 25%. And the collection efficiency is only about 40 to 50%, thus again falling into poor category, where the SLB requires it to be 90%. The data for Bidda village is not available. The next component is accountability of ULB. So the service level benchmarks helps in identifying the issues with respect to service provisions, and with lowest level of reliability, that is reliability D, the city seems to be performing, both the cities seems to be performing fairly, but there is a need to improve the reliability to know the accurate scenario of the area. It is observed that there is no metering done in the cities and the water is supplied only for 45 minutes in a day in Mandavi, whereas 1 hour every alternate day in Bachao. There is an urgent need to improve data reliability for better understanding of the context. The next component, actors' participation. So it is observed that none of the actors which are mapped share common vision, although the line of action or goals for most of the actors are similar. There are no overlaps observed in the roles and responsibilities of the people involved, and it reduces the risk of creating chaos, clashes amongst various organizations. There are also no coordination mechanisms observed in the stakeholders. Thus, for better results and coordination amongst the actors, it is important to bring them together through mechanisms like committees, regular meetings, etc. So currently there are no awareness programs going in the city, whereas Bidra village is very proactive and constantly making the residents aware about the multiple conservation methods and are ready to accept the new changes. The village has already made 200 defunct borewell to function properly by recharging them, which shows there is a good participatory groundwater management activity taking place in the village. The last component under the theme safety is quality. So the quality of water in Mandavi city seems to be fit, although through focus group discussions, it was observed that the water is slightly brackish. The quality data in Bachao is not available since testing has not been done in the last 2 years. And similarly, through focus group discussion, it was found that the water is slightly brackish and people are not able to consume it without cleaning at household level. The quality observed for Bidda water sources fall under very poor category. The quality of water in Bidda has high TDS, high calcium, high total hardness, high magnesium, and through focus group discussions, it was observed that the water is slightly brackish. The village has a community RO plant which is used for drinking water purpose, so people have to travel to avail water to a particular distance. And the disease data, when observed, it was seen that the waterborne disease cases are negligible in the area. However, the data is only indicative of the 20% population that uses PHCs. So after looking at the analysis, we could identify a few issues. So the issues are mentioned on the x-axis and the colors indicate the components. Issues like high dependence on external water ratio, water sources, water demand not being met, low cost recovery and collection efficiencies, and issues of quality like high TDS were observed. The actions were proposed accordingly, and most actions are short-term actions and are doable on ground. Similar actions were developed for Bachao city as well as for Bidda village. So coming to the discussions at last, it was seen that while the existing frameworks either mentioned about safety or security, this framework talks about both safety and security at urban as well as rural level. This study resonates with global and local discourses of water safety and security and shows how important it is to address this for vulnerable communities. This framework also gives a quick analysis to the competent authority on how a city or village is performing. They just have to fill the data for it. And these frameworks give a contrast on how the area, despite falling under the category of urban area, possesses the characteristics of a village. The project can further be developed on the aspects of disaster resilience, how securing water during the time of emergencies, and what are the mitigation, adaptation, and prevention strategies that are to be followed can be worked upon. This project holistically addresses the goal of achieving target 6 of SDG, since the timeline of the action plan also resonates with the target year of SDG, that is 2030, which is about providing safe and sustainable water to all. So at last, I would like to thank the competent authorities, the NGOs, and the stakeholders who cooperated in the data collection process. I would also like to thank UNICEF and CEPT University to give me opportunity to work on this research, and lastly UVCT for an opportunity to present this work in the conference. Thank you.